a lot of talk about Black Lives Matter. They're at it again up in Oregon or Washington State, somewhere up in that area. They're trying to get a university to take down the names of some of the buildings there. It's just one thing after another one. And, as you know, police officers around the country are under attack now. They've been shot at and in many cases killed. I have with me Jay Stalien, former police officer in Baltimore, Maryland, current officer around Palm Beach County, Florida. Jay is a writer at jstallion.com. His blog is called Perception: From the Road Less Traveled. Through Truth, We Will Unite. And we're Skyping with him today. And I wanted to talk to Jay about, he came out with a blog post last month refuting the claims of Black Lives Matter with FBI crime statistics. He also posted a video, Jay Stalien, Just Being Honest. Jay, thank you so much for being with me. Good morning.
Good morning. It's an honor. Thank you for having me.
How you doing?
Not bad. I'm alive. I get to see my family every day, so life is good. I'm blessed.
Yeah. How long have you been a police officer, and why did you decide to become one?
I started my law enforcement career in 2011 as a full-time. I was a volunteer in NYPD. I was an NYPD auxiliary since 2009, but I didn't become a full-time officer until 2011. But basically, I grew up in the hood, or the ghetto, and it just never sat right with me. I kept seeing people die, and I kept asking myself, who's gonna stop this? Who's gonna help stop this? Because we're never gonna stop all crime, but who's gonna help stop this? And it went from who's gonna help stop this to, I should help stop this.
Right.
That's when I made the decision to get into law enforcement.
And so you grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, ghetto area, right?
I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and I moved
okay.
to Baltimore, Maryland to start my full-time police officer career.
I got you. And when you say who's going to stop this, were you talking about were you watching the black-on-black crime happen around you?
Correct, because we got to keep it real. I mean, that's where I grew up. I grew up in a African-American neighborhood in the hood.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say the only, but all I saw was, one black person killing or committing crime against another black person. And to me, I was young at that time, and I didn't think, it was a deeper issue. I'm just like, somebody's got to do something to help.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to do something to help. I'm not going to sit there and watch it. I'm going to be that person who they can call on when they're going through the worst times of their lives. So that's when I started, thinking, you know what? Who else in this world is there when somebody needs help? Who else could possibly help this situation? And that's when it clicked in my head, like, police, cops are. So I'm going to become a cop. And that's when I dove into it.
Why do you know why black-on-black crime is so out of control in the urban areas around the country?
There's so many different reasons. From my perspective, from what I've seen on the streets, the number one reason is that a lot of black people in the community are complacent. It's okay. And I think that's where it starts. It starts at home.
Yeah. At
home, it's okay for somebody to go out and commit a crime because that's the norm. It's not abnormal for them to see, a black body or black blood being spilled on the streets. And I think that's the number one reason why there's so much crime. Like, people are complacent.
That's a good point, Jay. As you're speaking, I'm thinking of family members in my family who sons and grandsons, and in some cases daughters, are committing crimes in their neighborhood. They're going to jail, and the parents and grandparents are just bailing them out.
Absolutely.
And they're going right back in the street committing crimes. They're on drugs. And they go in and out of jail, and the parents keep bailing them out. And I tell them all the time, how do you expect this person to get better if you don't let them suffer in jail so they can realize what they've done?
And to get better, to have change, you need a stimulus. You need you need something to push you to that point where, I need to do something better with myself because I don't like being in this position. I don't like going to jail. But if you're never in that position, how are you ever going to correct yourself? There's no way.
Why do you know, when I was growing up, we were always told that if we go to jail, we're going to stay in jail. We're not going to come in.
Yep. Yep.
We're not
And
going
I'm
to come
sure
and get you.
you grew up in different times than I did, but my parents,
Yeah,
I was born in '87, they told me the same exact thing.
yeah,
You do something stupid, I'm not taking you out of jail.
that's right.
And it might sound harsh to a lot of people nowadays with the atmosphere, but that's what you need. You need that catalyst so you need that sting. You need to feel that sting when you do something wrong so you can correct your decisions.
That's right. Um, Prior to becoming a police officer, did you ever imagine that police officers would be attacked and killed in the manner that it's happening right now? Are you surprised by this?
I really, really am. Growing up, you couldn't pay me to be a cop. Like I said, as I got older, I started seeing the crime, and I'm like, you know what, I gotta do something about it. I didn't even think about the danger, but the dangers are real. And even from my law enforcement career hasn't been long compared to a lot of other people, but from 2011 to 2016, the difference is night and day. We still had a little bit of respect in 2011, but ever since these shootings, which I don't agree with all of them, that's an argument for another day. But ever since these one or two shootings became mainstream
Yeah.
and people radicalized the Black Lives Matter movement, it's hard to even describe. It's hatred. Hatred is how I describe it.
Yeah.
It went from being afraid of law enforcement because of intimidation or other factors to straight up hatred. They hate the presence of cops because they feel they've been led to believe that we're the bad guy and we're out here to kill them.
How much of an influence have Black Lives Matter had on bringing on the hatred of police officers?
Tremendous,
Yeah.
a tremendous influence. Tremendous. Because they've led the public to believe that we're the bad guy. They've jumped to conclusions before the investigation has even begun.
Yeah.
And it's not just Black Lives Matter. It's people, our leaders that support Black Lives Matter, who've promoted this rhetoric
Yeah.
against law enforcement, against Caucasians, that we're out here to kill Black people when the numbers don't support it and the facts don't support it.
Right.
And it's really sickening.
The media is also supporting this too by encouraging Black Lives Matter and promoting them to politicians. Are black cops as afraid for their lives as the white cops are?
And yes, absolutely. I'm glad you asked me that because people think there's a difference.
Right.
People think that in Dallas, if a black officer was on that line, he wouldn't have gotten shot, which is absolutely false. We saw that in Baton Rouge,
Yes.
where one black officer who was completely innocent was shot down. There's no outrage over his life. There's no protest over his life. So his life, did it really matter to Black Lives Matter movement? I don't think it did.
Right.
That proves the point that it doesn't matter if you're black. It matters if you don't have the same mindset that they do. Once you put that uniform on, it doesn't matter what your color is. Your color is blue. That's all they see.
Yeah. So when you get up in the morning now and put on your uniform, say bye to your family, and you're out in the street driving around or walking around, you're very cautious or nervous about your life just being taken away, someone just walking up and shooting you or shooting you from a distance.
Absolutely. It's really scary. And people think cops are this robot and you go to work and you're not scared of anything, but we're all humans and we're all fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters, and that's the only thing that goes through our mind. Every single call we go to, that's the only thing that goes through our mind. We're much more scared than we were prior to these events.
Yeah.
We don't know. Every call I go to, I'm looking across the street. I see somebody standing there, a group of people. Are they going to try and take us down? And it's not just me thinking that. We're all thinking the same thing. It's paranoia, and it has a bad effect on law enforcement as a whole because we don't want to put ourselves in certain situations or be as proactive as we should be because at the end of the day, we want to go home.
What causes you to stay in this line of work? Why haven't you quit?
I haven't quit for the same reason a lot of other officers haven't quit. It's because it's deeper than just a paycheck. If it was just a paycheck, it's not worth it. There's no way. But it's deeper. It's something in you that I feel it's an honor to go out there and serve the community. And that's basically what it comes down to. It may sound cheesy, but that's really what it's about. It's deeper than just going out there, getting a paycheck and, answering calls. You feel like an obligation to go out there and keep people safe, help protect people. Even in this climate where we're hated and people don't realize the job that we do, I mean, it's a self-satisfaction to go out there and serve.
Yeah. And you're 29 years old, right?
Right.
So you're a young man. Have you heard? Oh, let me ask this first. Are you married with a family?
Yeah, I have a wife and 2 kids.
2 kids. How is your wife and kids dealing with what's going on with officers around the country and the fact that you leave home every day going out into this danger?
Well, my children are too young to understand,
Right.
thank God, or else they'd be worried sick. But my wife, she was also an officer in Baltimore with me. And then we moved down to Florida, and she no longer works in law enforcement. I still do. But she understands the dangers, and it worries her sick. Every time I put on my uniform to leave and go to work, she says the same thing, come back home to us. And it's cute, but then I sit there and think about it. I mean, there's cops out there who haven't gotten the opportunity to come back home to their family,
Yeah.
come back home and fulfill their wife's request to come back home to us. And what bothers me is the reason why that so many people, especially in the African American community, have been misled to believe that we're some kind of monster that goes out there and just shoots black people. And I can't believe that so many people believe that. I
Yeah.
can't believe so many people are ignorant to the fact. I'll never understand it.
I don't think. Well, I don't know, but most people don't think of cops with families. They don't
Right.
think of you of having a wife and children,
Right.
and you go to Disney World and that kind
Right.
of stuff.
They don't think of us as humans at all. They really don't. After a cop gets shot, I've seen so many people comment, "Oh, if you're scared, you shouldn't be doing the job," or "You signed up for this." After a cop dies, you signed up for this. They should have known it was coming. And like, what happened to humanity? What happened to love for one another? Why would it be okay for somebody to die?
It's so interesting in that the average person doesn't see cops as families and people, and yet they accuse the cops, especially people like Black Lives Matter and from the black community, they accuse cops of not thinking of blacks as humans.
Right, right.
And it's the other way around, and they're so ungrateful at what the cops have to do in order to try to protect them.
They're so focused on external factors that they're not focused on what's going on the inside of their own movement and their own community. A lot of the things they protest against, they're doing the very same exact things.
Yeah.
The very same exact things.
Are you a Christian, Jay?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. And you believe God is with you?
Absolutely.
Good, man. Have you heard from Black Lives Matter? Have they tried to contact you?
I've gotten a lot of contact from people who support them or who are part of the movement, but nobody in that, I guess, leadership position has tried to contact me.
Right. You get a lot of hate mail, right?
Oh yeah, oh, yeah. But I don't focus on that. There's a lot of people who see what's going on, but not enough of the people who are really being affected by it, which is in the African American communities.
Yeah. You talk about how families of homicide victims tell you, F the police. I ain't no snitch. I ain't going to take care of this myself. No, I'm going to take care of this myself. And you say this every time. Explain that to us.
So we'll get a call for somebody down, shots fired. We get there, it's a crowd of people, and they immediately start walking away from us. Like they literally park the C's away from us. They don't want to be nowhere near us. So I get there, I call for the medics, we cordon off the crime scene with crime scene tape, and after we make sure there's no existing threat, we go around and try to talk to people. There's 100 people out here, somebody saw something that could help us find the person who did this to this guy or
Right,
girl.
right.
You go to talk to somebody, nah, F out of here. I don't want to talk to y'all. Where were y'all? Y'all never here. Y'all here harassing people, but you're not here when somebody gets shot. And the first thing I tell them, like, I'm here now.
Right.
Somebody got shot, you called, I'm here now. Help us help this person. Nah, yo, nah, I don't want to talk. I ain't snitching. And I can't understand it. They want you to be there, but then again, they don't want you to be there.
And you
Nope.
say that they say this every time. So every time in your experience that there's this type of incident, you need some information. They refuse to give it.
I haven't. I'm sure there's people that have cooperated with detectives afterwards, maybe on the side or in private. But when every homicide I've been to, when I'm on scene, no one's ever cooperated with me, ever.
And so is it that they hate the cops and they're afraid of their life for their lives,
It,
or go
it's
ahead?
both.
It's both.
Most people, some people don't like the police and they'll never work with the police. And there's some people, because of that group mentality, they don't want to be seen interacting with law enforcement because of that no snitching mentality. If they get caught giving the police information, they'll face retribution afterwards. So it's both, unfortunately.
But can't they call in and give the information?
They can, and some do, and that's how some homicides get solved. But Baltimore had 344 homicides in 2015.
Wow.
How many of those do you think have been solved? Not that many. And people are focused on police killing black lives. How do you explain 344 lives that were taken in Baltimore? The majority being black lives.
That
And
is amazing.
yeah, and 900 people were shot in Baltimore last year. 900. How many of those cases do you think were solved? Not that many. How many of those people were black? The majority. And they don't cooperate with police. They don't want to be seen talking to police.
I,
But
I think I read a report out of Chicago that the clearance rate is 25%, meaning
right,
that arrest only happens for about 25% of the murders.
yep, that sounds about right.
How do black people expect to improve in their lives, in their neighborhoods, in their families, if they don't personally take responsibility for all this?
And that's the exact reason they do not expect it. They do not expect to fix things within. Their priority isn't to fix their neighborhoods or their lives or the safety of their community. They're focused on external factors. The police is the bad guy. The Caucasian is the bad guy. That's why if that one mentality shift happened where they shifted from worrying about external factors to what's going on within the community, our quality of life, our safety, that one mental shift alone would increase their quality of life by a lot. But they don't expect those things.
So then, if that continued, Jay, that means that the black community would never get better. It's just going to
Exactly,
only get worse.
exactly.
Jay, you seem sad or something. Are you happy with it or sad with it?
As far as
How you doing? How you feeling about all this stuff and having to go through this pressure every day and
it's
then
sad,
work?
it's really stressful.
It
I'm
is.
not gonna lie. It's hard. And sometimes I ask myself, is it worth it? Is it worth it to still go out there and do the job? Um, but the answer is always going to be yes. But it's stressful. I mean,
I can imagine, man.
don't know if I'm going to come home every day.
You say in your blog, you say you were a target of the community you swore to protect. They hated your presence, called you Uncle Tom, wannabe white boy, etc., and you couldn't understand why.
Right.
Tell us about that.
I didn't even know what the word Uncle Tom meant until I was on patrol and I was called Uncle Tom. We responded to a call. They called me Uncle Tom. I'm like, I'm thinking it's just some random nickname they made up until another fellow African American officer told me what it meant, and I couldn't understand it. They view me as a traitor,
Yeah.
and I'm a traitor because I don't believe in the same principles or the same behavior that they believe in. And you know what? I could live with that, but it's hard for me to understand why that mentality even exists.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about because for the last 6 years, they've called me the same thing. Uncle Tom, sell out. You hate your mama, you hate your dad, and you want to be white. And all I'm telling them is that it's not about racism. White folks are
It's
not
not.
wasting their time trying to hurt you. It's about family. We need to get men and women in the black community, get married, and take care of their families, raise their children, start businesses, and keep the criminals, prevent the criminals from overtaking their communities.
That's exactly what it comes down to. And people they don't want to hear it. That's not where their priorities are. Everything's emotional. Nothing's factual. They want to focus on things that aren't going to help the black community. Like let's take the Black Lives Matter movement for example.
Yeah.
How is that going to help the Black African American community? Somebody explain it to me, because these nine high-profile incidents aren't going to change anything in these communities. It's going to make it worse.
Yeah. I,
So,
I noticed in your blog you call out facts versus claims of Black Lives Matter. Police are targeting black people, but they commit more crimes.
right.
Uh,
And
Go ahead.
one of the major points that our leaders want to say is that black people are 2 to 3 times more likely to be killed, or black people are stopped at a higher rate than any other race. And a lot of the statistics a lot of the places they pull these statistics from are high crime areas, high drug trafficking areas. This DOJ report that just came out from Baltimore, they cited the Western District and the Central District where I worked. And the areas they're referring to, especially the Western, it's a very, very, very high crime. That little area, the Western District is a very small area of Baltimore.
Right.
That little area is extremely concentrated high crime. But nowhere in that report does it mention that. Nowhere in that report does it mention that that little area has an extreme rate of high drug trafficking. That's why they're getting stopped. They mentioned one person got stopped 30 times between 2010 and 2015, but nowhere does it mention the crime that person may have been involved in, or the high drug trafficking area that person may have been in. They even mentioned Freddie Gray. Freddie Gray was stopped countless times. They state that in the DOJ report. Yet, they don't mention his arrest history and what he was involved with at the time that tragic incident happened. He was in a high drug trafficking area, an area known for a lot of drug sales.
And plus, he was a drug dealer himself.
Exactly. But the DOJ doesn't mention that. And that's why it's misleading the public to believe that we're targeting African Americans, but you got to look at all the facts surrounding it, the circumstantial evidence of why there's a high concentration of police activity in these areas. It's not about race, like you said. It really isn't.
Are you surprised as I am? The president is black and he's in charge of the Department of Justice. The head of the Department of Justice is black. And that woman that was giving this report, I think she was Indian or something.
Yeah.
Why would black people deceive black people in this manner? You would think that they would be more honest and hope that black people would get over this anger and respect police officers. Why is it that the black president on down are doing this?
As far as the president, the people in leadership, it's because it's an emotional issue. And you and I both know that emotional issues get more votes.
Yeah.
That's why it's on that end. As far as in the community, it's deep rooted hatred for what's going on. And why they hate somebody who's going out here trying to stop crime, I don't know. But it's deep rooted hatred as far as the community is concerned, and it's really for the votes for the politicians. It's a hot issue.
Yeah.
And whatever is going to get them more votes is what they're going to jump on the bandwagon.
So in essence, Barack Obama and the so-called black leadership and others don't care.
They don't. If they cared, they would care about let's talk about which issue takes more lives in the African American community. Is it police, or is it the crime that occurs within those same communities?
Yeah.
344 murders in Baltimore, not by police, or Freddie Gray, the one person who was in the act of committing a crime.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to that wants to talk about those issues. Which one's causing more death? I mean, everybody's okay to have their own opinions. You know, they feel that police need reform. That's fine. We can have that discussion. But my thing is priorities. Triage the issues in the African American community.
Do you feel safer in Florida than you did in Baltimore?
Yeah, I do actually. I do. I mean, where I worked, because I just moved to a different agency. Where I worked, it was like a small version of Baltimore.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, Baltimore. Because in Florida, they take law enforcement more seriously. I would say there's more accountability for crime.
Right.
But in Baltimore, I'm sure you see it in the news. They're focused on reforming the police instead of tackling crime.
Yes. I want to tell you, and then we'll take some calls here, how I discovered you, how things just all fell in place. I'm not like really good at using the internet and all that kind of stuff at all.
Right.
But I happened to be on Facebook looking at something, and I mean on YouTube looking at something, and I saw your post on the side there, and so I just hit it to see what it was about, and there was a news outlet that had picked up your Facebook post,
Right.
and they were reading what you, someone was reading it, and it was so interesting, and I thought I got to get this guy on my radio show.
Thank you. Thank you.
And but prior to that, I gave a talk like earlier this year. I gave a talk up in Silicon Valley, and I have a new book out called The Antidote: Healing America from the Poison of Hate, Blame, and Victimhood. So I was up there doing a book tour, giving a talk. There was a man one of the people who bought a copy of my book there, right?
Right.
And so I see your post, and then a couple of days later, I get this letter from this man up in Silicon Valley saying that he had bought my book. It was profound. He really loved it. And he said that I want you to send a copy. He sent me some money to send you a copy of the book.
Wow.
I'm looking at the letter now. He said that he wanted me to send it to this officer, and he gave you a name and address and all that good stuff. Dr. Smith out of Washington State.
Wow.
And so I just signed the book and sent it to you yesterday. I just put it in the mail. I'm just now putting it all together.
Wow. It came full circle, and I didn't expect it to even reach. I'm really overwhelmed. I didn't expect it to go as far as it did. That wasn't my intention, but
Yeah.
I'm glad, some people see that. I'm glad I can help some people see the truth of what's going on, the situation in America. It's not what it's being made out to be.
Yeah, he gave me the address to the police department in Riviera Beach, Florida.
Yeah, Blue.
Are you still in that area?
No, I just transferred to another agency.
Okay, well, the book went to that department, and I noticed that he spelled your last name Talien. He left out a word, so misspell your last name. So maybe next week you need to go over there and pick up your book.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna swing by today because they told me there's still a lot of correspondence coming from for me.
Good. Yeah.
So I gotta go back there and pick some stuff up.
Yeah. So I think you're gonna really like The Antidote when you get it. So when you do get it, whenever you read it, let me know what you thought about
Absolutely.
it.
Will
Okay.
do.
Let's go. Let's see here. The Bible Go-To Guy out of Los Angeles, California. Bible Go-To Guy, go ahead. You're on with Jay. Thanks for calling.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, Jesse. Good morning, Jay. Thank you very much for your service out there.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, we don't hear that enough, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. I wanted to complain about the chiefs of police and other law enforcement people who look at the average citizen as the enemy, the average armed citizen as the enemy, when back in the Old West, what was used to tame the Old West was posse. The sheriff would call in the posse, the citizens, the farmers, with their rifles, their pistols, and they'd go out and get the criminal, because a lot of times the there was Western gangs that ran around, and the sheriff or the marshal just didn't have the manpower to do it themselves. Why isn't it that the chief of police around the country, the chiefs of police, aren't asking to deputize citizens to carry firearms? The George Zimmerman case is a perfect example. Were George not there, another criminal would be on the street harassing the citizens. But yet we're looked upon mostly. I get the impression we're looked upon mostly as just wild vigilantes, and we don't want the citizen to have weapons, and we feel helpless in helping the police officer. If we would be identified, there's a way to identify deputized citizens to carry firearms. Why isn't that kind of thing pushed?
Jay?
I think that it's a deeper issue. On the one side, I think our leadership in this current administration doesn't want anybody to have guns. That's a discussion for another day. I could get into detail with that. But another issue is training. People don't see the amount of training that a police officer gets as far as using force or using deadly force. It's a very, very heavy responsibility. And it takes the basic training is 6 months in the academy, but even from there, you still get another 8 months of field training. It takes a lot of training to stay within the law as far as using a firearm to defend somebody or defend your community. And I believe that if chiefs of police did bring in the community, offer that training, they would have a lot more people out there, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
But I think it's a logistical issue and a liability issue as far as why they're not
Thank you,
going after
Robert. Good guy. Jay, thank you so much, man. We're going to put this up on my YouTube channel. I want the world to meet you and hear your message. And hopefully you can go around to the schools there in your area and talk to the kids. You have a powerful message for them.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
God bless you, man. And we're praying for you. Be safe out there, all right?